Hey there everybody, it's Chaos back again. So I'm bringing you guys another video today, and this is a pretty special one. I finally got a kink, or a lot of kinks worked out in this new build that I'm working on. And this is, to no surprise if you read the title, is going to be a reincarnate of the Whirlwind Barb from Vanilla. Of course, the main difference here now with Whirlwind Barbs and ROS and going forward is no perma wrath. And obviously everybody knows where the downfalls are if you are doing Whirlwind without perma wrath. But I actually have this build working in T6, and not only is it working in T6, but I guarantee you kill double mobs, triple mobs, four mobs, five mobs, it doesn't matter. You will basically be able to out tank and out heal and kill whatever it is that you want thrown at you, so long as you play smartly. And basically, I'm just going to show you the skills first. The gear and stuff I'll show you guys later. And I'm going to go ahead and show you guys a double mob kill. Just to let you know how I'm going to do this, I have Nemesis Bracers that will spawn enemies on a shrine. There's 3 locations here where you can do this, and you could go into Festering. The 2 sure mobs there usually would have a chance of a shrine, but the one place that almost always has it is going to be Leoric's Manor. So let me just show you how this build works, and then I'll explain the build overall later. So I'm just going to try to skip all the trash stuff here and get to the good stuff. Try not to run the video long. In fact, I'm just going to do that really quick. This is actually my 3rd time doing this for the sake of this video, because my daughter was sitting on my lap earlier and she made a lot of noise in the other video. Okay, so this is where the shrine is. Okay, so now let's go grab these guys and gather them up. I'm not even going to look at the effects list that they have, so there is frozen, which is good, because that is generally one of the most annoying things that you can fight when you're fighting a double mob. Now, just to let you guys know, I don't take damage from frozen because of the actual amulet that I'm using, so they can't kill me freezing me. I'm just worried about landing on other AoEs while I'm getting frozen. Now with the build that I'm using, I think one of these guys have Vortex as well. They won't be able to touch me with Vortex purely for the fact that I am using Whirlwind 100% of the time. So they cannot say Vortex me into a very bad situation. I'm just going to be a little bit quiet while I'm playing this, it just helps me kill faster. Okay, so both of these guys have about 120 million HP, so no extra health shenanigans here. So all the minions are starting to die out, and it's going to be just elites left. Okay, we're down to the last bits here. So Frozen Pulse, Electric Orbiter, doesn't matter. I could spawn 4 of these guys at once and kill them still. Alright, so there goes a double mob kill. A lot more successful than my second video without my daughter on my lap. Okay, so what are we working with here? Now just FYI, that is a lot faster than any other build that I've used so far. And that is saying a lot because I crit a hell of a lot with my Hammer of the Ancients Barb. None of the crits here go anywhere near 1,000,000. But because there's no downtime with this build, you're constantly attacking the entire time the clock is ticking. It is outright faster in kill speed and a hell of a lot safer. Okay, so actually let's start with gear first because this is what makes the build. The skills play off of the gear. So that's really important, and I'm going to emphasize that because Loot 2.0 is literally like Diablo Reborn. And it's coming to fruition because I am literally finding so many different things that you can do with this game now. And these builds here, some of them already have synergy from vanilla, like whirlwind, sprint, and stuff like that. So it was really easy for me to kind of break that wall into picking new, or not new builds, but picking right skills for the build. But a lot of these skills have changed, so they don't work exactly the same. So let me show you how the gear makes the build. Okay, so we have the two weapons. So this weapon here and this guy here, they just have the lightning procs. You could read them, pause them on screen if you haven't seen them before. And this guy here could roll with the socket. I would give up the vit since I don't need it, to get a second socket if possible, and then up my DPS even more. But these two guys here will play off of Whirlwind because I picked the Lightning rune, which is Wind Shear. And Whirlwind actually, in Wind Shear form, luckily for me, actually generates because every enemy that you hit, you get, one Fury back. And I am wearing a three-piece IK set, and I am running Max Reduction, and on top of that, I'm running Unforgiving. So basically, I'm generating about four something with the Templar Fury per second. On top of this guy here, one Fury for everybody hit. It's actually a generator. So now this taking the place of Frenzy, which was kind of like the basis of my last build using these two weapons. But this one here synergizes a lot better because Whirlwind will actually proc these two guys a lot faster. So, the reason why I even thought about putting in Whirlwind in the build first and foremost is to try to proc these as much as possible. So this is how the gear has influenced my choice in the skill here. Okay. So after that, what you're going to get is the three-piece IK set. So the three-piece IK set will be for Fury generation, which is obviously to keep Whirlwind going, to keep the procs going. So now the idea behind spreading these two guys kind of put a requirement to put this in to keep Whirlwind going. And not only that, but you notice that on the three-piece set, it gives you 289 life per Fury spent. And what that does for you is basically allow you to heal while you're holding this down the entire way, giving you the EHP to outlast anything that you're fighting. And generally speaking, the ideal build would have ice climbers in the boots slot, and that would basically allow you to run into frozen orbs and heal without being frozen. So, ideally that's what I want. And this is an old IK glove. I would like to have a new one with the exact same roles. This is basically a four primary and two secondary. So I would love to have a new glove like this, just in the ROS form, to complete the set instead and have ice climbers here. And with that, I don't have to dodge as much as what you've seen earlier because I also have this amulet that prevents all cold damage. Now, this amulet is what allows the build to happen, because the freezing no longer kills me from sheer damage, and they can because frozen orbs do a lot of damage in clusters. Or if you ever get stuck in Waller, that's where the whirlwind's weakness comes in, is when you're stuck in Waller. This guy here will prevent you from dying from that burst damage. So this is another way that loot will basically allow you to open up different builds. I no longer have to worry about Waller frozen with this amulet. I do, however, have to worry about Arcane, and that's where Stomp comes in. Stomp, along with the Nemesis Bracer, another example of how loot dictates your build, is almost like an ignore pain if you're surrounded by damaging just things, like mobs in general. So you get 11% reduction for every enemy stun with this ancient Parathan defenders bracers. And if you have about five mobs around you, that's as good as ignore pain. That is 55% damage reduction. And if there's only one mob around you, very rarely would they have the DPS to do your EHP in the one single session of being frozen. So on top of that, this is another thing that dictates the build. What I also have here is Roger's Huge Stone, and this guy here gives you regen. And that's where this one comes in. So the reason why I'm picking these skills is because of the gear that I have, and you'll see how everything synergizes. You already seen it, but with the regen, and I'm lucky to have so much regen on my gear. And this wasn't really a planned thing because this just kind of came that way. I think, let me see, what else do I have in this regen? Yeah, I mean, basically it's one, two, three pieces of regen gear. Templar, of course, for the regen, and then I have a base of 3560. If I cast Warcry, you'll notice that I'm up to 5,000, and this guy will boost it up to 80% as your life decreases. So another prime example of why this skill is in. And regen, just FYI, is the best source of heals, bar none. The reason for it is because it heals when you're stunned, it heals when you're frozen, it heals when you're running, it heals when you're attacking, it heals all the damn time. It is better than life per hit, although in this build, it is decent, but whirlwind procs and sprint procs are near none, so you really don't get much out of this 2000 something that I have here. Life per kill, once again, not so much of a big deal. If you are good enough that you could proc this all the time, you're in a difficulty too low. If you need it, you're in a difficulty too high. So life per kill, never really good one to have. Life per Fury spent, however, excellent. This in this build in general. In a lot of other builds, it helps, but in this build, it is a constant heal because you never stop using Whirlwind, and you always could double up with Sprint, Battle Rage, and Rend. And once again, um, having the Life per Fury spent, which is in the gear, in the three-piece IK set, is what dictates putting a lot of spenders in this build. So once again, the gear helps to make this come alive. Without this gear, without this, you can't make any of this work. Loot 2.0, guys, is real. It's good. It's happening. So generally speaking, what you're looking at here, I also have these shoulders. This is the one piece that's kind of question mark, but what I have here is regen and cost reduction. Cost reduction is what allows me to generate with the whirlwind, so that's important. And then I'll have an SOJ along with the two-piece BT set. A lot of people might look at BT and go, well, this is absolutely crap and garbage. I actually found multiple uses for these. I actually have a three-piece set of this as well. I don't think the fourth is worth it. The fourth is complete garbage. They don't do enough damage. But the three-piece set is actually really nice. The reduced damage from elites allows you to open up offensively with a lot of other pieces of gear. And you can also lower the restriction or the requirement for EHP as well if you could fit a three-piece. But I honestly don't know if it's worth it because you have the amulet, which is kind of needed for the anti-freeze amulet. The belt, IK belt's better, and then the boots, I actually have the boots as a third piece. But once again, ice climbers are going to be ideal. So in this build, I think you're never going to really get a three or four-piece set. But the increase in elite damage coupled with this is the synergy that allows me to do Torment 6. And if you're doing Torment 6, the amount of HP that mobs have, if you don't have these guys here boosting, you're not going to get it done. Not with Whirlwind, not with Sprint. Rend is really the reason why you're killing things in this build. Um, and luckily for me, my IK helm actually rolled with Rend damage increase. So sheer chance. I was wishing for Hammer of the Ancients, but my God, this is like I don't know. I'm just finding gear that works, and or maybe I have gear and I'm just making builds work with my gear. I don't even know what it is anymore. So you've seen every single piece. I'm just gonna roll over these one at a time so you can see them in order. I should have done this a long time ago. I know this is deep in the video already. But after this portion, I'm gonna move on to the skill set. So just want you guys to pay attention, to what gear that I have, because a lot of these pieces outside of the shoulder, not interchangeable. Okay, so skill set. Whirlwind Wind Shear. This is the fastest attacking, highest proccing attack that will work with the two weapons. Once again, this is the reason why that it's in. On top of that, it has innate abilities to ignore knockback, vortex, things that literally would hurt a lot of other builds, especially vortex. No other class outside of like demon hunters with their smoke screen can prevent vortex. Spirit walk as well. Monk has serenity, but those skills are I would say like they have downtime to them, and you can't keep them up 100% of the time. Whirlwind is the only exception. Ignoring Vortex already gives you a leg up in any other build that's out there. So on top of that, being lightning damage and generates fury allows this build to work. Really amazing skill. I downed the hell out of Whirlwind a while back, saying how useless the skill is, but it is really a survival skill more than a DPS skill. And I think everybody going forward, if you're putting this in your bar, you have to think of it that way. And it works wonderfully if you use it in that format. Ground Stomp, obviously, this is to, go with the stun bracers. And the 24-yard radius is exactly what the bracers gives, 25. 11% to each stun mob. You could literally, ignore pain is 50% damage reduction. The number of mobs times 5 would give you 55 here. So, if you have 10 mobs around you, that's 110, damage reduction from all sources, which is ridiculous. And it's a 12-second cooldown. I have cooldown reduction as a secondary priority. So having this proc quicker and quicker just gives you more safety time. If you know you're in a situation where you will get hit, stomping for 4 seconds will get you out of frozen, get you out of jailer, get you out of like wall traps, everything. So not only does it reduce damage, so like if arcane's spinning on top of you and stuff like that, you can use this to reduce damage done, even if you're standing on the ball of the arcane. If you stun enough mobs, your natural regen will kick in and actually coupled with the damage mitigation, allow you to live to fight another day. So really, really powerful skill. You would not find this in, regular Diablo whirlwind builds, but in this version, it works like a charm. And Rend here is really your damage dealer. Now, if you are not good enough with gear and you don't have enough EHP to last in T6, you can go with Bloodlust, but at that point, you're not doing as much damage. Just to show you, 925, last rate gives you about a 425% increase. If you can't use this skill, you will suffer a lot in DPS. So I would highly recommend building enough EHP to allow you to unleash this skill and use it to literally just mutilate whatever it is that you're fighting. This is your main damage source, and that is a big thing because 360-degree damage is one thing the Barb really lack. And if you can use 360-degree damage to your best, I would say, possible solution here, is to rend everything to death. This helps a ton. Sprint run like the wind, it's for mobility. Downtime, you could avoid it. And right now I'm generating enough fury to use this endlessly, so there's no downtime within this build. Whenever you kill a mob, you run right to the next one and you're back at it. Speeds up farming. I think the Barb is going to be the fastest farming build again, purely because of this. So, it also synergizes Whirlwind. No need to explain there. Battle Rage into the Fray. Now, this one's interesting. And, I'm just going to go to Warcry real quick, Invigorate. Y'all know why this is in. But Battle Rage into the Fray. In my last video, I talked about how Bloodshed was a big staple because whenever you crit, and because I'm attacking so darn much, I would crit a lot, right? And every time you crit, it would cause an explosion to do 20% of that crit damage around you. Problem is Whirlwind is based on multiple little tiny hits. And not only that, this build will make me suffer in my crits category because there's so many different things going on here that, it's not perfect gear, but honestly speaking, it doesn't hurt me either. I don't feel the hurt from losing the crit chance, honestly. I mean, Ren would benefit a lot with it, but, crit chance is funny because it's not that important anymore, guys. It isn't. You can make builds work and they work really well. I have like 70% chance of crit on my Hammer of the Ancients build, and this is like at 20 flat, 23 with Battle Rage by default, but it's not necessary to have in a build specifically anymore. Now, what Into the Fray does now is actually give you one crit chance for every enemy around you. So, in my opinion, because of the lack of crit that I have, I benefit more with this if I'm surrounded by like 10 people. That's 10% more to proc crits on this, and this. And that, in my opinion, probably does more damage than if I had little tiny crits proc Bloodshed. Not only that, but the things that you have to worry about killing is not so much large mobs as Rend is just so good in itself that you don't need any extra damage. And Rend actually doesn't proc bloodshed, so that is completely wasted. Um, so Into the Fray actually is a better passive in this build, or not passive, but rune in this build than you get with bloodshed. And basically, when you have the critical hit percentage added to all of these guys here, when you're down to the final, elite, which is like the yellow guy, bloodshed does nothing in that scenario. At the worst case situation, Into the Fray gives you 1% more of crit chance, and every little bit counts. Because if that 1% procs a Ren crit, the Ren crit right now I've seen in the ticks, as far as I notice, is about 660k per tick, which is as big of a hit as you're going to get with this build. But every single Ren tick will be critted if you hit a crit. So in the beginning of the fight, when you're surrounded by multiple mobs, that would allow Ren to crit more often. And then when you get to the last mob, this is how this synergizes. I put in Ruthless instead of Brawler. And a lot of people will think Whirlwind, well, why not Brawler, right? It's going to be, 20% damage increase almost the entire way. Almost is the key word, because when you're down to the final mob, if I put in Bloodshed, which is really good for large mobs, and Brawler, which is really good for large mobs, I will kill all the supporting cast really quick and be stuck with an elite mob that has like 50 million HP left. Um, but with this combo, you know, with the higher crit chance proccing for Ren, the elites, or the minions around him, will still die really quickly. So will the elite, and then when they dwindle down, then Ruthless kicks in at the end and kills everything after that. So these two guys actually have a really weird synergistic style to them right now that I like a lot. I thought Ruthless was pretty damn useless in most cases, but this is pretty good of a synergy between the two. And Brawler, as much as I like to use it, well, guess what? There is a fourth passive slot in the future. I don't think it's necessary. I think the bigger problem is when I lose the Templar, I will need regen to keep the same build or playstyle. And for that, I would basically use Inspiring Presence. And this basically stacks as you go forward in ROS because it's based off your maximum hit points. So right now, I don't need it, but going forward, this will help. And our Animosity. The Fury generation will replace that of the Templar in case I don't get enough generation, but I highly doubt that's going to be the case. Because honestly speaking, I mean, I could do these two guys in rotation that earn or generate when it's down to the final boss, and that's enough for me to keep whirlwinding. I just won't use sprint. I'll whirlwind and then lacerate. But because I also have superstition, it would generate if I'm fighting anything with AoE dot damage. Unforgiving is in here to generate Fury, pretty basic, staple in this build. Superstition is really, really interesting as well. Now, when you're running Whirlwind, you're expected to go dive nose deep into whatever the hell damage that you're put up against. And when you're fighting things with a lot of different types of AoE damage, DOT, that is the time that you will actually need the most heals. And this passive gives you that. And the way that it does that is, like, let's say you're dealing with Plague, Molten, Electric, uh, Poison Enchant. So all of these massive floor controlling kind of things, what they do for you is generate Fury. And generally, Fury doesn't equal to heal on a normal basis, but once again, because you have a three-piece IK set, you have 289 Fury or life per Fury spent, and what that means for you is you have one, two, three, four spenders that you can spam at any given point. And basically, when you spam those, this comes out to 10, 20, 20, 20, so 60 plus 10, 70. I have reduction right now. That's what I'm prioritizing. And Fury reduction is at, I think last I checked was like 15%. Right here, 15.4%. So that's like 10 off of that. So you have 60 times 289 every time that I spam these buttons. And you could do about one a second. So this guy is going to generate massive fury for you in the times that you need it most, allowing you to spam these guys endlessly to heal you more during the times that you need it. I hope I make that very clear because this is so powerful of a passive. I ran with this back in vanilla before the nerf to Inferno, and right now the game feels a lot like vanilla Inferno, to the point where this has re-emerged to be a really good passive and a staple for the most part if you want to build offensively. This kicks in at the time that you need it most, and it allows you to either sustain offense or heal. And I've always said life per fury spent is a very important factor in healing going forward. But in this build, you could treat it as a constant heal because you're never letting go of this button for the most part. So you're constantly healing while you're holding this button down. And then on top of that, you're getting these guys, sprint. I'm usually just constantly spamming while I'm inside of the mob anyways. And then when I need backup Fury, these two guys could kick in and I'm just mashing three of these buttons at once. And you get massive heals along with your regen. And the lower your life is, the better this ring procs, along with the active heal that you're doing. You saw the results. Um, I mean, this build here I could go on and talk about a lot more because being that it's safer and it surpasses my Hammer the Ancient's Barb, and you can do this with every single piece of gear coming from the new Loot 2.0 setup. I think this is going to be one of the more interesting builds. Now, obviously, everybody's going to know, Earthquake set, one of the most talked about glorified sets on the PTR. I I don't know how well Earthquake set will hold up in a lot of situations. Kill speed wise, I am not sure. They've changed a lot of things with a few builds that were out there, like the Freeze Barb, and also like this Earthen Might Rotation Barb that allows you to Seismic Slam all day. There's a lot of changes to kind of break those builds. Unless they drastically change any of these pieces here, which I don't think they warrant a change, or one of these skills here get changed up, I don't see this build being broken. And it's just literally a ragtag set of items with a ragtag set of skills that work really beautifully together. So going forward, I'd be interested to see how far I could take this with more inflated stats, um, and more mitigation. And if I get enough mitigation from gear alone, because some of these items here aren't ideal per se, that might either free me up for more offensive passives, or I could go ahead and go more defensive passive and open me up to more offensive gear. And I still haven't found all the legendaries yet. I'm super excited that I had to record this 3 times and bring it to you guys. So hopefully, for all of you guys that are crying bloody murder that there's no more Whirlwind Barb, well, hell, I just made a build that's better than the Barb that I like, which is the Hammer of the Ancients Barb. And it freaking plays like what it was on vanilla. And I kind of hate it, but at the same time, I'm super excited because I think this is a pretty fun build in its own right. And it is completely hardcore friendly. But then again, the good luck finding all of these pieces to make it work. Once again, I'm still 2 pieces away from what I would call my ideal setup. So if I find those 2 pieces, I'll report back. This guy here being physical damage, by the way, is, in my opinion, better than lightning because it helps with Ren. So, I think I got a good bracer here. When I first found it, I was pissed off, but hey, that's an extra 19% Ren damage, so I can't complain. Alrighty, guys, I know I talked a lot, and I think the 3rd time around gave me a lot of insight of what I wanted to say, and it helped me to present this guy a little bit better. The last 2 videos, atrocious. First one didn't even have audio, so thank you guys, and I'll catch you guys next time. If you have any questions, you know where to find me. Take care.